So friends, today, predictably, Donald Trump turned his fraud trial in New York into an absolute circus. And it's abundantly clear why. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, Donald Trump took the witness stand today in his civil fraud trial in New York, and he played the fool. He acted like a stone-cold clown in ways that I've seen defendants act before. In fact, as a former career prosecutor, I have seen defendants do exactly what Donald Trump did today. Be combative, be insulting, call people names, refuse to answer questions in a responsive way, and I can tell you why they do it, and I can tell you what the outcome of the trial almost always is when they do. We'll talk about that in a minute, but let's start with some of the reporting, and specifically, let's talk about some of what Donald Trump said today inside that New York courtroom. This from NBC News, Trump fraud trial recap. Former president testifies in New York legal case. And friends, here is just a sampling of some of what went on inside that New York courtroom today. Trump focused his ire on the judge, saying Judge Engoron ruled against him before knowing anything about his company. Trump said the judge called him a fraud, raising his voice and pointing his right hand at the judge while looking straight ahead at the courtroom. He then said any fraud was on the part of the judge for his comments on the value of Trump's properties, not on Trump, calling it a terrible thing. Engoron just looked forward, soured-faced. Done? Wallace, the attorney for Letitia Tish James' team. Done? Wallace asked when Trump ended his outburst. Done, the former president said. In another episode, Trump said Attorney General Letitia James is trying to demean and hurt him. I think she's a political hack, he said about the Attorney General. He repeated a common refrain of his online, calling the trial a political witch hunt and saying James should be ashamed of herself. At another point, Trump veered into his focusing on China, Russia, and keeping the U.S. safe while president. The Attorney General's lawyer said, quote, the question was actually about this property value. Let me ask it again. Growing tired of Trump's antics and non-responsive answers, the judge tells Trump lawyers, I beseech you to control him. Control your client. Judge Engoron at one point said, you can attack me all you want, but just answer the question. And friends, one final example. Kevin Wallace, a lawyer for the AG's office, asked Trump about the appointment and acceptance of trustees, and in response, Trump said, you and every other Democrat coming after me from 15 different sides, all haters. Not exactly responsive to the question. You know, friends, it is so transparent what's going on here. I've seen it before. If you can't win on the facts, and Donald Trump can't win on the facts, you attack the prosecutor, you attack the judge, you attack the process, you attack the institutions that are trying to hold you accountable for your crimes, for your fraud. What you don't do is you don't answer questions in responsive fashion. What you don't do is you don't follow all of the rules, all of the procedures, all of the protocol of the very process that is seeking to hold you accountable for your wrongdoing. Why? Well, because if you do, you are conceding the legitimacy of the process, and by extension, you're conceding the legitimacy of the outcome, which will be not only to hold Donald Trump accountable for his long-term, rampant, systemic, years-long business fraud, as Judge Engoron has already found, but you're conceding the legitimacy of being barred from doing business in New York in the future. You're conceding the legitimacy of having to disgorge, pay back $250 million or more that you acquired courtesy of your fraud. I have seen this movie before on more than one occasion. You know, I tried a sizable RICO case in the courts of Washington, D.C. many years ago, and we had 2 RICO defendants take the stand, choose to testify. And much of what they did was yell and scream and bluff and bluster and refuse to answer questions in a responsive fashion. They would just spew things out at the jury that they wanted the jury to hear. One defendant kept calling one of my fellow prosecutors, one of my teammates, a female prosecutor, ignorant. You're ignorant, ma'am. You're ignorant, ma'am, in front of the jury, right? Not unlike Donald Trump, his attack on the judge and the prosecutors and the process. And the reason defendants do that is because they don't have a winning case on the facts. This kind of nonsense that, Donald Trump came up with in court, his performance, his show, his circus, is not a sign of strength. It's a sign of weakness. It's not a sign of confidence. It's a sign of fear. It is an acknowledgement. When he can't testify like an adult, right? It is an acknowledgement that he doesn't have a winning case. He has no facts supporting the notion that, he did not commit fraud. He has nothing. So what does he do? He attacks and attacks and attacks the prosecutors, the judge, the process, the institution that is endeavoring to hold him accountable for his wrongdoing. This is not a sign of strength or confidence. It's a sign of weakness and fear. And it won't work. Yes, he may be trying to play to his base, but it sure won't work in a court of law. Judge Engoron is not nearly so gullible that he's going to buy anything Donald Trump said. There is an often used saying in the law when somebody goes into court and they know they have a losing case. The saying goes something like this: if you have the facts on your side, you pound on the facts. If you have the law on your side, you pound on the law. If you have neither on your side, you just pound on the table. And what we saw from Donald Trump was a whole lot of table pounding. No substance, no defense, no excuse for his career of fraud as a businessman in New York. He's a fraud. He's a con man. He's a loser. He will lose this case. Then he will lose criminal case after criminal case after criminal case. I hope he testifies in his criminal cases. I hope he performs, in clown-like fashion before juries, the way he performed in clown-like fashion before Judge Engoron today in that New York courtroom. And if he does, when he does in his criminal cases, I've said it before, friends, he will be convicted by a jury of his peers so fast it will make his head spin. Because justice matters. Friends, thank you for bearing with me as I lose my voice today. As always, please stay safe, please stay tuned, and I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.